The The Freedom Trap by Desmond Bagely. And in today's episode of A Book at Deb Time, the trap is sprung. Oh, I said sprang. The Scarperers, a brilliantly organized gang for getting long-term prisoners out of jail, GAOL, it's 1971, have sprung Slade, notorious Russian double agent. Slade's trail leads British agent Owen Stannard to Malta, where he finds his quarry and the mastermind behind the Scarperers, suave, cultured, and a killer. And I'm going to ignore Tom Mayhew's messages where he wants to watch my family eat dinner, which he's just done over the first minute of. Thanks, Tom. So, Desmond Bagely, never read it before, 1971. This book was so thrilling, the pages literally fell apart in my hands. That's how high octane this actually can't even. Um, it's a weird book. I found it was good. I would say it was a good book. Um, there is an almost compelling element to it, in that this is obviously one of the sort of stratas and genres that inspire. No, it's not. Inspires the sort of goth merengue, the pulp parodies that I've grown up with. Um, but this is even before its time. In essence, though, its earnestness sort of saves it. It's not trying to be offensive in any way. I don't want to say it was of a different time. It's just it's very hard to care when you know that it's beyond. There's a point where something is just beyond those pernickety judgments. Um, it the first 100 pages, basically a little over 200 pages. Now I mentioned Owen Stannard. Owen Stannard, you spend most of the book, the first 100 pages, with a Reardon. Reardon is a professional thief who is contacted by a Macintosh. I think the easiest way to give the tone is, in fact, the very first paragraph. Macintosh's office was unexpectedly in the city. I had difficulty in finding it because it was in that warren of streets between Holborn and Fleet Street, which is a maze to one accustomed to the gridiron pattern of Johannesburg. I found it at last in a dingy building, a well-worn brass plate announcing innocuously that this Dickensian structure held the registered office of Anglo-Scottish Holdings Limited. I smiled as I touched the polished plate, leaving a smudged fingerprint. Macintosh knew his business. This plate, polished by generations of office boys, was a sign of careful planning that augured well for the future. The professional touch. I don't like working with amateurs. I had wondered about Macintosh because England is the spiritual home of amateurism. But Macintosh was a Scot, and I suppose that makes a difference. No, it doesn't. But apparently it does. So Macintosh hires him with the help of Mrs. Smith. It's a robbery, and it's a weird one. You get into such minutiae of detail on how diamonds are moved around the country through Kodak letters and envelopes. There's a moment where you think it's all gone wrong, and he goes, but he's forgotten about the chance of the second post. And to me, in 2025, second post is something of my early teen years at best. Um, Farthings and halfpennies in 1971 is what I'm sort of thinking. Anyway, Reardon gets taken to jail, doesn't say anything, and we end up in a prison drama for about 80 pages. I'll do more quotes, but frankly, the thing fell apart. There's good screws, there's bad screws, and I'm thinking, well, this is just going a prison drama, which is ostensibly a man going from one box to another. He's not really interacting with anyone. Where's this action? Look at that cover. I want explosions. And it's all the way down to some guys are good to him, some guys are bad to him. There, and of course, because he's respected, and then a gay man tries to come onto him, but they know their place within the gay prison structure of 1971. Aha! I was never confused, but I was very attractive to men. What is this? Um, Later it transpires that he is going to be, and the escape. He escapes by someone using a fireman's engine, using a cherry pricker with a Russian agent. It's with and smoke guns like that. That all of this subsidy, and then suddenly there was an explosion and they get out. That's how this story works. Turns out Reardon's not Reardon. He is Owen Stannard, double agent and on the run. Doesn't know where he is because the Scarpers have left him somewhere just beyond heaven and earth itself, otherwise known as Ireland. So he meets the Maves and Dylans and looks at wonderful forest hills while looking at the odd-shaped coins and downing stouts and flirting with Mrs. Smith, who then turns out to be a Miss Smith in a sense because she's a widow and dun 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 turns out to be Macintosh's daughter. This weird backstory that seems, I've got to remind myself predates Star Wars. While on the run, trying to prove that he is not the prisoner he claimed to be for the entire year he was there. I was never confused. I just like chess. Um, before going to Malta. And the island I've got to stress is the hills, it's the far and the way. I mean, my Irish pretty much begins and ends with Dear Dutch, Conesatatu Kiran and Amdam. Other languages can be equally mangled. This and frankly, the big clanger for me is they talk about the Troubles, 1971. This was reprinted until 1978. Yet don't really address Mountbatten, who seems to have be the best man with the plan for everything. Mountbatten was not the best man for the plan. I think Mountbatten's partition company, as a man of both Irish and Indian descent, have proved that there's a big red line through his name, as far as I'm concerned. It's just historical fact. Um, there is a sex scene. He does have sex with Mrs. Smith because, of course, he does. She has legs. All we really know is she has legs, and she makes love like an animal, like a savage, as the scratches on his back entails. Yes, I am closing my eyes rather than because this is the God. In the end, they're able to track down Wheeler, the MP, who turns out to be a Chinese sleeper agent. That's right. Can you imagine, you know, British politics being influenced by Chinese mass media? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Get on the TikTok cubes. Boom. The best way to capture him is to buy a small boat, fill it with fireworks, make sure it explodes in his boat. It's a weird one with a lot of introspection, a few helicopters. The fights are intermittent, normally to do with Drambuie and setting fire to people. It's mainly fire based and smoke based, with one sex scene, scratches on my back, but a lot of just walking, walking and pretentiousness. There's an element where I'm just thinking of those a bit of Fry and Laurie sketches. Damn those, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure it's quite encouraging for like bolshy men, while at the same time um not too threatening because at least you get to be bolshy. It's basically 2 hours of bolsh with very little action because that would probably intimidate them. Now, would I? It was a good book. It did exactly what it says on the tin. Um, Language like the Scarperers is very hard to take seriously. I really do not believe that Scarper is something that could have been taken even seriously then. If you're a fan of thrillers and the fake news of real politics, aka the Telegraph or the Daily Fail, then yes, do check it out. Um, Otherwise, aside from the amusement I got from just how asinine some of this machismo was, I'd say it's a fair to middling. It was a decent commuter belt. It was a decent commuter belt. Not much more than that. From it, I am not going to be looking out any more Desmond Bagleys, and this will not be going to any book swaps because it's fallen apart. So with that, that brings us to the end of the Freedom Truck by Desmond Bagley. One sex scene, couple of bang bangs, uh, boat on fire with fireworks. That's good. Scenic locations of Ireland, which was pretty much hit my sarcasm and sentiment in just the right spot. But I know that's going to be a very very limited market. Like and subscribe and don't follow the sheeple people. Fake news.